Welcome aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. Mr. Kerr, fresh off his time in Hawaii for New Year's Day, is back strapped into the chair, ready to get at it. Mr. Kerr, I know we're going to talk a little bit about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff at the job. I am especially thankful for my new Accor status. We've got a couple of listener questions. I am inordinately tired after what was not a restful holiday, but I'm here and strapped in and ready to get this podcast started for 2025. Might have a little talk about status. Might even have some predictions for the new year. But with all that, Mr. Kerr, how are you on a bright and sunny morning?
I'm unaware of which Kerr went to Hawaii because that was not me. That was, you know what we did, man? We did absolutely nothing. And as here at time of recording, the Kerr kids are still in South Carolina, and Mrs. Kerr and I are still here. Actually, she has made an entire day of seeing friends and coffee and going to the library and returning things and shopping, and has a dinner with her friends. And I am in the chair working all by my lonesome here for one more day. And I don't. I guess
so
you're
so to be clear, there weren't even in-laws picking up the kids.
No, I mean the kids are gone.
That was on the radio. Okay, the kids are gone.
Yeah, kids are gone. Have been.
Kids
gone.
are gone. Wife is ignoring you like she should.
No. We've just chilled, man. It's been great. Sometimes the last few days, kids have been gone for 3 days, so 4 days total without them. Longest we've ever been home without the kids. We did a ton of house projects. I fixed some holes in the wall, towel racks, these kinds of things. Like all the adult things you're supposed to do. Got a fire extinguisher for the kitchen, put up some new smoke alarms and smoke detectors.
I saw that.
And, a whole lot of nothing, man, because...
This is not the story that listeners and viewers want to hear, Mr. Kerr. I just got to tell you, this is a travel podcast, sure. And the fire extinguisher is not getting us ratings.
Well, I thought we wanted to go somewhere, but sometimes, man, you just want to do nothing. And I see what is on the horizon. Every weekend of March now, I'm in a different state.
Yeah.
February, we're in a different country. January, I'll be in New York. And I just saw it coming on the horizon. I was like, you know what? We're just not gonna force it. We're gonna chill.
Yeah. We did have some ugliness this morning back and forth in text when you were ridiculing me for booking a domestic red-eye home, and I was trying to figure...
As you should have been at your age. Nobody wants a 3-hour red-eye to try and go work.
It's 4, but sure, whatever. I would argue, I would try to argue that it's not as bad as what you had suggested to me, though I do think mine probably worse, but 9 hours in coach from Amsterdam, I can't say is a whole lot better.
Okay, but if it's 9 hours in coach for 3 people for a total, and not per person, a total of 37,500 miles, you're still not gonna do that.
I'm not sure. It's a good question because we're going to talk a little bit about that because we have a dad-daughter trip planned, which might involve a flight that long in coach. But first, a little bit of housekeeping and important housekeeping because for the very first time on the Miles to Go podcast, I'm going to try to do something. It's going to be difficult, but let me read this.
Try to do something, period, because you've never done anything before. I'm going to try and do something.
Let me read you this podcast review, and you will know where I'm going very quickly.
Here it comes.
So this is from R. Luis, 4-star rating. Would love it if we could bump those up to 5. He says,
4-star ratings were a thing. Who does that?
I know.
It's 1 or 5. Come on.
I finally remember to go in and do this. Been listening for about 3 years. I enjoy your podcast a lot. Very valuable information, and there are times when I wish it was longer. I have to say, I typically agree with Richard on just about 100% of the time. Sorry, Ed. I love his take on things, and it jives with how I see the world and the world of travel as well. His insight into the industry, from his background to his current role at Bilt, are invaluable to me, and it should be a must-listen for anyone in this arena. Without making his head bigger, yes, because we don't need that, what he says is typically solid and coming from a place with lots of experience and common sense. Now, I hate to rain on this parade, but I could also do without the Disney stuff. Been there, done that, but you all have young kids. And I realize you both are road warriors, so you're obviously going to rely heavily on the hotel reviews, which sometimes I wish they weren't so lengthy. All right, Mr. Kerr, you ready? Here's my action item. And I just messed it up. Lastly, I look forward to the time when I listen to an episode and I don't have to hear Mr. Kerr for 87 straight times. Laugh out loud, please. No more Mr. Kerr. Call him Richard for at least one episode. So that's my goal. Richard is to call you Richard for one episode.
Now, you read this review 2 episodes ago, and we talked about this.
No,
Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Ed, are you okay?
I am not okay.
What's my name, Ed? We definitely covered this 2 episodes ago in the review. Jeremiah, just leave that in because that's awesome. That's
Did we really review?
Yeah, we did. We definitely covered this. Yeah.
Did I call you Mr. Kerr?
You should keep making R. Louise angry about that, and maybe that'll bump us down to the 3-star instead of the 4-star.
All right, Richard.
Don't say that. It makes me really uncomfortable.
Oh, perfect. Oh, God. Why did you tell me
that
that
at all? Nobody calls
All
me
right, a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to text us, 571-293-6659. You can also leave us a voicemail there. We do have a text question from a listener today. Ed at Pizza in Motion is how you email us. He is at Kerr Points on all those social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. We are both home, although briefly, I think, for both of us, because I'm on the road next week, and I'm going to guess that your train is probably getting going soon as well. Maybe someplace new like New York?
Yeah, but New York in January is fine because there's no traffic. The hotel rates are back to a stomachable level, and as long as there's no snow,
only $600 a night.
Yeah, hopefully, it should be under $300, but we'll see. And then you can get in and out of the New York City airports as long as there's no snow. Although if you've seen the weather forecast coming both our ways for the next couple of weeks, man, it's gonna be rough. Be interesting.
Yeah, my first flight out is already scheduled with what looks like will be snow in the DC area, and I have an evening flight, which is not a good mix. I think we'll be headed to the old de-icing pad for the first flight of 2025, and there's nothing better than de-icing. And I would say
you don't avoid that. Like I would completely change I'm not even messing with that.
You and I, like, we had this discussion this morning with Howie via text. This week, this travel week is highly scheduled for me. It's a day of meetings here, flying to Vegas, 2 days of highly scheduled meetings, then Reno, and then I have to be on calls all day Friday. And that's why I've so far chosen to take the red eye, which I may bail on at some point and try to find some random place in the middle of the country that has a flight where I can stick around for a few hours.
If I see snow or ice coming, I'm like, it's just because either you're not going to go or you're going to go waste 8 hours trying to go. And the only reason
why I'm not changing the plan as of yet is because it is a nonstop flight. And so I won't mess with connecting flights when the first one starts with de-icing, just because there's too much variability at that point. But a nonstop flight, we'll see what the weather looks like. If it's snow and not rain, which is what it is now, then yeah, I would probably keep the plans the way they are. Because the alternative is not getting home till Saturday, and my daughter's only home for a couple more weeks, and I don't want to lose a whole other day at home. So,
very well, make it so.
Very well, very well. All right, so do you want to talk? Let's see, what do we got? We can talk. About. I have a status question for you. I know you want to talk about some Bilt and some Points.com stuff. Also got the dad-daughter trip, which I want to run by you. So those are some things up in the air. Where do you want to go, Mr. Kerr?
Let's jump into status, because that's fresh on everybody's mind. If you've opened your apps and seen 0 nights, zero qualifying miles, 0 everything, and start all over again.
Went from 161 Hyatt nights to 0 Hyatt nights.
Yeah,
which was a little depressing.
Very depressing.
Can I just say too, and this is a little bit of a tangent. I'm gonna go off on a tangent here for a second, because I didn't realize this, and you would think, me being the Hyatt nerd that I am, I would have realized this. But did you see the thread in Slack where we're talking about the various awards, the milestone awards for Hyatt? Stephen Phillips, one of the members in Slack, pointed out to me, which I didn't know, that if you get the ultimate free night, which is where you get to 150 nights and you get a free night at any Hyatt in the world, it only has a 6-month expiration date, which I got to be honest, man, that was a gut punch.
I saw that. That was brutal. And the other thing we talked about in Slack, but don't recall if we talked about on the show, was I had a Cat 1 to 7 night that was only good for 6 months expire on Christmas Day. And I knew a month and a half ago that there was just not going to be opportunity to use this. So you can take 20,000 points after the certificate expires. So I did that. My Hyatt concierge wrote back and said, hey, I can give you 20,000 points, but because you can now gift these to other members, this is the last time that we're going to do this. So now it is truly use it or lose it or give it away. Yeah. And I saw ultimate free night, only 6 months, man. That is rough. That's tough.
It is. Because I think most people, that's about the window where you're planning trips. Now, I know you and I plan a lot of stuff, close in. Our buddy Summer planning stuff 6 years out. So, this might work for her. But 6 months, gosh, if we think about summer travel, which is right where we are in the window right now, a lot of people have probably already wireframed out what they're doing for summer vacation with the kids if you have a family. Maybe spring break is a possibility, but again, you probably already mapped that out by the time you earn this award. And like, I understand there are other milestone rewards, and maybe you'd feel differently about different ones, but using the ultimate free night as an example, you need 150 nights with Hyatt, either through spend or nights in bed. And I got to 161 throughout the course of the year. You're not going to hit this reward in August. There's not going to be a whole lot of timing you can do on how you hit it.
It's only ever going to be good from like December to April or something like that.
Yeah. So it's a very narrow window, and that, I got to be honest, like that's disappointing.
The other thing about this, right, is you're trying to maximize it. It's a free night.
Right.
There's no Category 7 limitation, which means it's going to take some finagling probably at the destination you're looking for.
Yeah.
Which is even more of a even more of a headache. Yeah,
I'm not trying to use this as a Hyatt Regency anywhere.
Right.
This is, this is Park Hyatt Kyoto and above territory sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. Which leads me to now. I haven't looked, man, but does that mean my extra Miraval free night is also only 6 months, and then I got to get that on the calendar? Yeah, probably. I got to get that on the calendar now, then, so we can go check that out.
Well, and there is this strategery of you have until whatever date to pick each of those milestone rewards based on when you hit them. So you're going to want to set a reminder, and you're going to want to pick it as close as possible to the date it expires. All to say, like, love the Hyatt program, but hate that this behavior is what's being encouraged by the way this is structured, where it's like, now I've got to risk missing that night so I can maximize the amount of time I have before it expires by picking late in the calendar. And we already know I made a mistake with my Delta Choice benefits in 2024, so we don't want to replicate that in 2025 by making bad choices again. So
fair enough. All right, what was the status question you originally had?
Yeah, so the status question I originally had, and I ruled one of the choices out. So let's just say that in the next 13 days, when they announce the rest of the Global Services nominations, that yours truly is not among them, and I am back down to 1K. So I've got some choices. I have lifetime gold status locked up on United, and I would say that's probably not enough as a road warrior. I probably would want at least platinum. But, I mean, given your lack of success with plus points upgrades, and lots of other folks I've talked to who have had a lack of success, and my mild success as a global services agent, like, there's not a ton about 1K that excites me. And so there's a couple of things that popped up on the horizon, and I think I eliminated one of them. I thought, maybe crazy hair sort of like go for Aeroplan status, because you only need 20,000 Canadian dollars for top tier status. But as I started to look at itineraries of trying to build tickets, mostly because, folks who don't know this term, cabotage, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, or cabotage, you can't, Air Canada can't sell a ticket wholly within the United States. So they can't sell me Dulles to Las Vegas. They can sell me Dulles to Toronto, and then I can get off the plane and I can have a separate Toronto to Vegas ticket. But I'm buying those end to end, and the less efficiency in pricing and stuff like that. So the only way to qualify for Air Canada status, which seems to be quite valuable for the people that have it, would be to ticket a whole bunch of stuff on Air Canada ticket stock, which I think would be tough to get $20,000 worth of international flights, because I just don't call whatever that is in US dollars, 16,000, something like that. I don't think I have anywhere near that amount of spend in 2025. So I don't think it's an option to get Aeroplan Super Elite. So that leaves our good friends at American Airlines. So do I, now that there's a path to lifetime executive platinum, and I'm at, I think I'm at like 3.4 or 3.5 million lifetime miles with American. So I would need to get another 500,000 to 600,000 to get lifetime platinum pro, and then a 1.4, 1.5 to get to lifetime executive platinum. Is there something to be said for me dialing it back and just saying United gets just all my nonstops, whatever that is, and then I put the rest on American to start earning a higher level lifetime status with them?
I mean, no, because they have such a limited footprint at Dulles. I don't think you're moving anywhere, right? You're not, there's no.
I don't think I'm moving.
There's no reason for the Pizzarellas to leave the Dulles area, which means
I will say they actually have better connecting flow up and down the East Coast than United because of Charlotte. So if United doesn't have a nonstop, I have to backtrack to Newark.
But
so
where are you going on the East Coast from Dulles that doesn't have a nonstop with United?
I mean, there's not a ton for sure. I mean, but there are some Midwest stuff too. I mean, like, again, on United, I gotta, like, if I want anything in the Nashville-ish, that center of the country area. But you're right. There's only a handful. I'd probably get 20 or 30,000 flight miles of connecting traffic where Dulles where United and American would be on even par for their connecting itineraries.
Dude, I am all about efficiency and ease right now, which has led me to Delta, right? Because it's just not worth it. So I don't see a world in which flying American to connect where otherwise is not required on United is worth your time.
No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. But if I'm going to if I'm going to, New Mexico or St. Louis or something like that where there's not a United nonstop, do I connect on United or do I put that on American?
You're going to be flying United the majority of the time, so I do everything I can to make that life easier for me in the future. Like now, I'm looking at my Delta lifetime paid flight miles, and it's like 315,000. And I'm like, where could I be if I was at the last 5 years of,
Not a lot more.
Not a lot more because I was actually thinking about that too. Is like I do all of the, we'll call it fixed overhead of flying to Atlanta, right? And then I'm only on a 700-mile flight to New York, whereas you're at a, whatever, was it 2,000 miles to Vegas?
Just about 2,000, yeah.
Something like that. Like you do all of the same overhead I do, and you just sit on the plane for another hour, and you get that many more lifetime flight miles. Versus I do all of that overhead and the New York City overhead, and I only get 700. Like it's just,
in some cases, your flights
I'm on my radar. But I think for you, man, I think United is going to be your future of all future, and you do everything you can to get beyond lifetime gold for that. And like you don't worry about American, even though they're mile. Like the only benefit for that would actually be getting as many redeemable American miles as possible.
Well, that is a
how
plus.
Valuable they are.
Yeah, that is a plus. And on the United side of things, I don't think there's anything else to achieve there because to your point, let's say I flew another million on United, which God willing, I hope I don't have another million paid miles in me for work. But if I did, I go from gold to platinum, which I think you'd agree is really not meaningful. All I get is economy plus at time of booking for the rest of my family. That's literally what I get for another million button seat miles with United, where a million button seat miles with American would put me within spitting distance of executive platinum.
How long is it going to take you to get a million button seat miles with American? You're talking 10 years, right? I mean, like...
probably more, yeah.
So I can't even
probably more.
Can't even plan beyond again this year. And maybe that's a recurring trait with me of how I can't plan far out. Maybe it's a personality flaw, but like I cannot do anything now beyond my retirement savings accounts that I am worried about what's going to happen in 10 years. Like that's the only thing that I'm planning far out on that I think you do. Whatever makes your life when you're a road warrior now as comfortable as possible, which is probably flying United the vast majority of the time on a nonstop.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. No, I don't intend to take any connecting flights when there's a nonstop option, unless the timing is abysmal on back when when United switched their first nonstop out of Dulles to Vegas in the morning to like 10:30 or 11 a.m., which just ruined the workday. Where I could connect on Atlanta on Delta through Atlanta and be there, 2.5 hours earlier. But all right, well, I appreciate you weighing in on that. I'm still not sure where my head's going to end up on that. I would imagine that American will likely get whatever connecting flow I was giving to somebody like Delta. As long as the itineraries match up, just because I think now there is a little bit of an extra added benefit with the extra rungs on the ladder for Advantage Elite status from a lifetime standpoint. So before we dig into the Bilt stuff and how a point becomes a mile, sort of like those old Schoolhouse Rock videos, we've got a listener question via text from Chloe. And I think this is one that's very near and dear to our heart because it talks about a program we love and a connecting airport that maybe we don't love so much. Hi, Ed, listener of the podcast. I think this is an easy question for you guys. I'm flying home from France in May. Got a great deal through Flying Blue. You and I both love that part. Mm-hmm. Maybe not so much the next part. Never flown through a CDG, Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, before, so wanted some perspective. I got this tight warning from Flighty on the connection. Do you guys think we'll be able to make it? It looks like we'll need to travel from 2F Fox to 2E at CGG. With boarding, realistically, we'll have about 20 to 30 minutes. Will we be good if all is on time? Now, I think what she means when she says that is she's probably about an hour on the ground, 20 to 30 minutes of time once she's off the plane to get to the next plane before boarding starts. So how do you feel about this for Chloe going from 2F to 2E?
No.
In an hour.
I really wish we would have given us the actual... Assuming Chloe is she giving us the actual landing and departure times.
Yeah.
And where from? So are you connecting within the EU or are you coming from outside of the EU and have to make that connection? Like what kind of trends are we talking about? 2E and 2F are actually not that far apart. They're actually right across from each other. So it's not like you got to do the thing my family I had to do from one wing to the other wing last year, whenever that was. So, I mean, depending on what the transit is like and depending on what those lines are like, that is super tough. Now, also assuming, hopefully this is a single ticket. You're not trying to do this. If this is two different tickets, then absolutely not. You're not going to do this.
It sounds like it's probably the same ticket if it's a deal on Air France, but yeah, you're right. We don't know that for certain. And like you said, 2E and 2F are across from each other, so there's some hair there. I mean, you're definitely going to be clearing security, for sure. And you got the
maybe twice.
I think with 2E 2F, is that the one where you go down the tunnel and underneath and then up, or is that 1 to 2?
That's
or 2 to 1.
I think you can walk it. You got to go.
I definitely think you can walk it, but I think you go underneath. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, I think it's going to be ridiculously tight, and I think if you have that connection, I think I would run. And to Richard's point, I mean, I hope it's Schengen to Schengen.
Yeah, if it's not, again, I'm probably not doing this because that is a long haul. That probably is only once a day that you're trying to catch, and if you miss that, it's not good. Yeah. You're gonna have another 24 hours in Europe, which you may not work for your schedule or your budget or anything else. So probably not trying to do that. Also, if it's winter and there's potentially snow or ice, like I just, don't see good things in the future there. Could work out, but are you going to be stressed about it the entire trip? Yeah, probably. So it's not worth it.
Yeah. So Chloe, I hope that helps you. I would say if there's an alternative to switch the itinerary, I'd try to do that. To Richard's point, if this is your flight home back to the U.S., you might only have an option or two. It still might be worth trying it at an hour, especially if it's a connection that Air France sold you for an award. If you can't make the connection, chances are they'll put you on the next flight. And you just have to hope that the next flight is something that works for your schedule. So, all right, All right, Richard.
Ugh, just don't do that.
Richard! It's time to talk about Bilt. And I think this is what you posted shortly before we went on the air today was some background behind some of the bits and pieces. So for folks that don't recall, because the timing of the show didn't work out for us to talk about Bilt's most recent rent day deal on the show. Bilt had a rent day deal partnership with Accor and their ALL loyalty program. You might not have heard of Accor. They have some really great brands overseas and in Canada. Fairmont, one of my favorites. They also have the Raffles brand. And then some middle and lower tier brands like Novotel and Ibis that are very prevalent in Europe and in Asia. So you guys offered what I thought was a really interesting status opportunity. I matched to ALL Platinum for my Bilt Platinum status, along with a 5,000 point transfer from my Bilt account to my Accor account at the 3 to 2 transfer ratio. And I think that's what spurred you talking with, followers of Bilt about, hey, how does all this work behind the scenes?
Yeah, I've been doing a series of posts on Reddit where I just kind of tell the most interesting things from my viewpoint that I've learned from a power user to now industry worker in this. We'll talk about that, point transfer in a second. And look, the all program, we just status matched all the way up to platinum. If you're Bilt Platinum, you go to all Accor or Accor all platinum, which is a very tangible, awesome status match. The kicker is they've never done a status match to platinum before. So I also spent my 5,000 Bilt points, or transfer them over, didn't spend them, but turn them into all points. And we'll have platinum here in a day. 2 suite night upgrades, lounge access, sadly excluding Fairmont Gold here in North America.
But those suite upgrades, I mean, that was what got me to do this. I think if I can redeem the suite upgrades, this is a huge value. And it seems like, at least based on initial reading, it seems like we might have 2 years of expiration date on those suite upgrade certificates.
Yeah. Confirmable at booking is what sold it for me. Is that it's not like Marriott where you got to, kind of roll the dice. You can do it at booking. So a lot of cool stuff there. And really excited about it. I can't tell everybody the exact numbers, but participation exceeded our expectations, which is kind of a theme for rent day. And the other cool thing about Accor Platinum, which I hope you people did, your research, is you get Qatar Airways Gold, and you're like, what the heck does that mean? That means you're one world Sapphire, which means you can get into the Admirals Club domestically when flying American Airlines, if you have that status. So it kind of goes on and on. There's some cool partner offers, and excited about that. I'm excited about, man, I put it in our group chat briefly yesterday because I really didn't even know this until I was looking for our family trip to London coming up in February. First of all, side hustle. If you're not a travel agent, you can be a travel agent. You should be a travel agent because of the travel agent rates that different brands offer. And Accor has an entire website and everything dedicated to travel agents, which is actually the best of all of the chains. Like, it's just great. And you can apply for their travel agent rates. And here's where we ended up, right? You can get a true 1-bedroom suite in London at the Novotel, which has like an indoor pool and health club and looks awesome. It was, shoot, man, I have to look back at a screenshot, but it was like $300, $350 a night or something like that, which again, you can cover with Bilt points transferred to Accor because they're worth €2 each. So bottom line was we ended up with a suite for 28,000 Bilt points a night. Like a true suite in London, which is one room, impossible to do in London for families of 4, really.
Yes.
Unless you get 2 rooms or, get super lucky. With a Accor Platinum status, which is going to get us welcome amenity, welcome drink. There's entire threads on Flyer Talk dedicated to the welcome amenities because, again, this is not like, again, no offense to these programs, but it's not like Hilton Diamond or Marriott Platinum where you can just get a credit card and get the status. Until we did this, there was no shortcut to a Accor Platinum status. You have to stay 60 nights. So I'm excited to try this out, man. And 28,000 Bilt points for a suite for a family of 4 with next to top tier status in London is that's it. Just just a great way for that all to wrap up together. And again,
I like the way you did that there.
Yeah, it's looking at the family friendly properties in Europe and Middle East and Asia, and Accor so much better than the American programs because they just don't have to worry about that here. Whereas Accor, headquartered in Paris, amazing team there that's super excited about this, and I'm really excited to go and try this out. So I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic, and a lot of technology to make these status match things work because, again, nobody had done this before. There was no existing technology avenue, which led me to write what I wrote on Reddit this morning and put it in our Slack group, and I hope everybody gets a chance to go and check it out in the Bilt Rewards subreddit. But how do Bilt points, or how do points become airline and hotel points? Like, how does this transfer actually work? Because what's the first thing that everybody asks when you go to transfer points or before you transfer points is, how long is this going to take? Is it going to be instant? Is it not going to be instant? It didn't work. My point transfers didn't go through. And this was one thing I was really excited to learn about, 3.5 years ago. Holy cow, I can't believe it's been 3.5 years. So we'll just go through the 3 steps. And Ed, I know you knew about points.com because you're an industry insider for a long time, but I wrote this because I don't think most people had any clue how your Chase points balance goes down and your Southwest points balance goes up. You think people had an understanding of this, or not?
I don't. I mean, I think, like I said, in the olden days, points.com used to be the vehicle where, you could actually do transfers yourself as a consumer. So you'll remember those days. And then most people don't know this, but if they've heard the name, they probably only associate points.com with the website they end up on when they buy points. So a lot of the buy points offers where you get an email from, Hyatt or United or whoever, and American, and it's like, hey, buy points with a 50% bonus. Well, when you click through, you'll see a link American Airlines .points.com, and you're at their offer. So I think that's where most people know what points.com is.
Yeah. So you can think of points.com, headquartered in Toronto, an amazing team, recently bought by Plusgrade, which some of you may have heard that as well, where you go to bid on a empty first class, business class seat, or get a empty seat next to you in coach. Plusgrade bought points.com, I think in 2022 is when they started that. Awesome team. That's why I go to Toronto a lot. It's a lot of fun. Park Hyatt Toronto, shout out. It's my favorite place to stay there. So let's go through the 3 steps of how a Bilt point becomes an airline or a hotel point. So step 1 is an integration with points.com. So all you have to do is think about points.com as the pipes between Bilt and United, or Bilt and Hyatt, or Bilt and Hilton. There are pipes that are owned by points.com. The reason for that is if I wanted to go directly integrate with 20 different airlines and hotels, it would be near impossible to just a massive technology suck. Every airline, every hotel, their technology stack, the technology platform that they run off of is different and uniquely custom designed for that program. So if Bilt was in the middle of a massive cloud and there were 20 little clouds of airlines and hotels around me, I would have to go and do a custom project 20 different times to get our 2 clouds to talk to each other. Points.com started doing that, I think, almost 25 years ago. It's like 2000, 2001, even 99, something like that. And they speak all the different language, and they have these integrations mainly done with every major and middle loyalty program in the world. So now I have to do one integration to points.com, who has done their integration to hundreds of loyalty programs. My life is a lot easier, and they have these pipes that make me have the ability to talk to basically any airline or hotel program in the world. So that integration worked depending on the partner. If they already have an existing relationship, let's say I went and signed up, my latest partner was TAP Portugal. They already worked with points.com. Took us about 8 weeks. That's on average. It takes us 8 weeks to stand up a new relationship. So we go out, we talk to airlines and hotel partners. We say, hey, you should come and be a partner of Bilt. They say, this is really exciting. We sign a contract. Then we both go to points.com and say, our contract is done. Please complete or, begin, scope out the integration work. So that's the first step. Integration work is done, 8 weeks of work. Step 2, now you have to link your Bilt account and your loyalty program account. And Ed, did you know how complex or how frustrating this was before or after you read my post?
Well, you and I have talked about this before the post as well. And I think, I had known about what I would say largely are the two separate methods that programs use to verify this information. And I would say I wasn't surprised by your heartache over let's say the less reliable of the two methods, where you rely on us humans to key things in correctly.
So we'll take Hyatt as an example because this just has one of the most frustrating nuances out there. If you want to link your Bilt and your Hyatt account, there are two ways that we could have technologically set this up. One is called SSO, single sign-on. This is where if you click link my Hyatt account in the Bilt app, you would actually be brought to the Hyatt website and you would see the same login page that you see every time you go to Hyatt.com. You enter your Hyatt number, your last name, your password, securely log in, single sign-on. You sign in to Hyatt, recognizes that this is your right username and password, and it links the account. Very secure, very simple. It's error-proof because if you cannot log into Hyatt, you cannot link your account. Love it. Love doing this. It's the only way that we do it actually going forward. Some legacy partners of ours, single sign-on takes a lot of resources. There's a lot of custom work to get the authentication piece called OAuth, so we can do a secure handshake really to start this process. A lot of overhead, a lot of work, security risk, security questionnaires, a lot of legal overhead, and programs say, let's do speed to market and let's just do what we call manual authentication. So that leads us to number 2. Manual authentication is an actual manual form that pops up in the Bilt app that says, I want to link my Hyatt account. It says, please type in your World of Hyatt number. Please type in your first name. Please type in your last name. Yeah. How many people mistype their number? How many people have a different name on their Hyatt account? How many people have a hyphenated name? How many people have a maiden name, an alias, an apostrophe in their name? And it just does not work very well all the time. Members get frustrated. And specifically with the World of Hyatt, if you go and look at your World of Hyatt account right now, the last digit will be a letter. It will not be a number. However, Ed, if that letter that you are assigned randomly by Hyatt is a O or an I, on the website, it looks exactly like a 0 or a 1.
Yeah.
And logically, because all of the numbers in front of it are a number, you will type a 0 or 1, not an O or an I. And this leads to many back and forths between customer service. And again, we have no visibility into your Hyatt account.
Right.
We have to go on what you tell us. So if you write in, say, Richard, I'm having trouble linking my Hyatt account. I typed the number, I checked it, I typed my name, it matches. All we can say is, please try again. I got nothing else. I can't go to Hyatt and say, what is this person's number? And I can't tell you, man, the number of times where, not to their fault, they think they type in 0 or 1 as O or an I.
Yeah.
That's 4 or 5 back and forth. They swear their name is right, but then they go and look and they realize they had their maiden name on their Hyatt account. Just like so many different things. Drives us insane. And again, not much we can do about it. So single sign-on, awesome. That also has all kinds of API degradations and authentication problems that can happen, but it's just not very seamless. Like, it's not just like, go link your account. That's it. It's just so much going on behind there. So we've completed that. That's step number 2. Now that we have done the integration work and we can speak to Hyatt, now that you've linked your Bilt and Hyatt account, number 3 is actually the point transfer process. So you go into the Bilt app, you initiate the point transfer, you agree to the terms and conditions, and that's where we do all the work in the background of different credit and debit APIs talking to each other. Fraud checks going on, because good grief, man, but I just don't think people understand how big of a problem loyalty currency fraud is.
That's why you see all the 2-factor authentications popping up in so many different places is programs are finally figuring out they got to lock these down.
You have to. So Points.com has fantastic fraud capabilities that go well beyond whatever you can imagine. I'll say that. Just so that people don't get too much of an insight into how it works, but it's pretty awesome. Now, there's so many things that can happen here. On average, a Bilt transfer across all of our partners takes 6 minutes for the points to show up, which is great. Would love it to be instant. It's just not going to happen anytime soon again because of the way these things operate. But there's so many things, again, that can happen here. An API can be degraded. An API can be offline for maintenance. It can be the middle of the night where some programs just don't run their transfer APIs. Don't know why. I have asked them to change that. But again, we're not their only partner, et cetera, so on and so forth. The authentication can fail, and sometimes things happen. Now, the vast majority of our transfers go through no problem, but every now and again it can be slow. every now and again it can fail. And my team, myself, we talk to points.com every day. We have a joint Slack channel. We are constantly monitoring, constantly looking at this, constantly trying to make it better. Go up to Toronto twice a year for business review and what are we going to do to make this better. It's just really complex to make these things happen. And it's not just as simple as what you see online where it's link my account, click a button, the points are there. Like it's just so many different things. So that's 3 steps. Do points.com integration. You could do a direct integration, which we've actually done with one partner. But again, like I talked about, custom tech stack. And now I'm on the hook for everything. If I directly integrate with a partner, there's no middle person like points.com.
Right.
I got to do all the tech debt on that. Anytime we have new capabilities, I have to build it. I have to constantly monitor it, all the maintenance. Any promos we want to do, like transfer bonuses, that's all powered by points.com. We have to build that ourselves. It's a ton of overhead to go through. So that's just a little insight into the 3 steps of what it takes to transfer those points and, how complex this can actually be. Again, trying to always make it better, but I just hope that's a little bit of insight. We were just like, where are my points? It's been 20 seconds. And again, love all you guys writing me, DMing me, slacking me. I appreciate it. Just a little bit of patience, 6 or 10 minutes, and those points 99.8% of the time are going to show up.
It's that
I wish it was 15 seconds. Yeah.
It's that 0.2% that we worry about.
Yeah, but it's just really amazing how well, a lot of programs do this. And if they're not there within 30 seconds, people are already looking to fire off a Slack or a DM. I'm just like, how long ago was this? And they're like 3 minutes. I'm like, all right, let's give it another 3. And then they show up and they go, thanks. I'm like, yeah, just a little bit of patience.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thanks for breaking that down. I think, a bunch of folks really liked it when you broke down some of the economics of the program a couple months ago. So hopefully folks find this useful. And as we end this week's episode, I had 2 little clips I texted you from our Slack group, and I want to see if we can burn through these real quickly just because I think they're both things that you and I can relate to. One of them is actually fairly topical and timely for you. We'll get to that one in just a second. But for folks who don't know, we have a paid Slack community that helps support the show, helps pay for video production, all that fun stuff. A few bucks a month. There's also an annual subscription. There's a bunch of different channels there where you can ask questions of experts like Mr. Kerr and I, and we try to do weekly happy hours and semi-annual meetups. Currently working on planning a meetup in Las Vegas to piggyback on one of my...
I voted for that. It's got to be the weekday. Got to do the weekday.
All right, so first up from Jordan, and this is one of those, like, I can't tell you how many times I have felt this exact same frustration. He talks about P2, which is your significant other, which we've joked about when we had Emily on the show.
As Mrs. Kerr doesn't know and openly asked after 12 years, what is P2?
And we were supposed to have my P2 on the show today, but the recording schedule meant that this was also her work schedule, so we still owe everybody a Miraval recap for my wife, who is dreading coming on the show, but to be continued. So Jordan says he found P2's mom 2 business class seats this summer on Air France, 80,000 points per person, Phoenix, Dublin. That's great. She said you can't book it today, maybe tomorrow. There's only 2 seats at this price. This is stressing me out, and I'm not even flying. How many times have you found someone a great deal, Richard? They're like, okay, yeah, I'll look at that later. And you're just like, oh, God, no.
No, I've done this so many times. And again, I'm happy to help people. Ed is far too generous with his time, in my opinion, but I will give everybody a solid DM reply with, go check here, go do this. But if I'm really going to help somebody, I tell them, like, if I text you because something has popped up, you have to be ready to move. And there's no, let me go check, let me think about it. Because again, if you're selling a ticket in the United States, you get 24 hours of free cancellation. So book it and then go do that stuff. And I tell people that beforehand. If they still don't do it, then I'm out. I'm sorry, I can't help you anymore. There's nothing else I can do for you. So you got to be ready to move.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree. And can't tell you how many times the people who get this are the people who, to your point, get more time and support from me because they know that they're going to take the advice I give them and they're going to run with it because you never know when these things are going to expire.
You still have the cousin that texts you once every 3 months asking what credit card to get, and they're not going to ever act. We
all of us nerds have that one.
Yeah.
All right, and then Megan talks about something that's very topical because you and I talked about this just a couple of shows ago, the new electronic travel authorizations for the UK, which will be coming up for you here shortly. Megan says, just did ETAs for myself and my husband this morning on the UK app for our March trip. My fairly new phone couldn't read the chip in either of our passports, so I had to take photos of our passports and take additional passport-like photos of each of us, and in parentheses, stand in front of a white wall, take off glasses, etc. Once I finally got to submit, we were approved within minutes, but it took upwards of an hour to get to that point just for 2 adults. I can't imagine doing this in an airport for a whole family.
So many people are going to be lined up against the wall at the boarding gate, furiously taking pictures of their kids to try and get these done, man, because it's not going to happen. I got to do that. I read that post, and the kids had already left when they're not, still not here. So as soon as they get back, we'll be lining them up against the wall, because I am sure that my phone will not read the chips in the passports. Like I'm not even going to bank on that happening.
I've really struggled with my passport chip being read by any number of devices around the world that are supposed to be able to read the chip in the passport. And I'm hopeful that the next version of the chip will work much better than the current one, because the current one kind of sucks.
Yeah, the American app asks to read your chip when you check in to get your passport information. It wouldn't work for me. So I was like, this is never going to work.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Mr. Kerr. Well, I hope that your first travels of the year go well. I doubly hope that mine do as well, considering I know I've got snow in the forecast, and I guess we'll find a way to record again next week from some random corner of the world. I didn't think about that when planning all this. I got to find some time to sync up my schedule with you with all the meetings and red eyes and all that other stuff. So if I look a little bleary-eyed when we record next week, you guys will know why. Mr. Kerr, looking forward to another year of Road Warrior travel.
Here we go. Buckle up.
Buckle up, folks. Sorry for everybody seeing zeros in their accounts this week. It's time to get on the status train for 2025. Mr. Kerr and I are, by the time this episode drops, we will already be on the way to making those zeros into much bigger numbers over the course of the year. We'll have to see what 2025 holds for both of us in the world of travel. But until we upload again, we've got miles to go. Cabotage. Yeah.